Well, so I have Dr. EOCO. Today, my producer decided to add his first name, Bernard. I didn't know about that. Bernard, he's a member of Parliament for Lejokuku constituency. There's one thing is concerned I don't like though. The road around Lekma, that hospital.
Yeah.
That hospital built by, is it not Evan Satamil's built that nice hospital?
Yeah.
And people, you can construct road, you are not constructing road. Why are your people not constructing? Road there is rough. You know, the last time I was from the estate, Greater Estate, there was an ambulance that was going through the hospital. Was creeping through the rough road. The road is bad. And I think that you have to tell your minister for something. Your party is in government. And try and do something about it.
Roland.
The Lekma Road, let me announce the place. Lekma Road, bad road. The Lekma Hospital Road, the one in front there, you get the rough road from Trade Fair. It is bad. Do something about it.
Roland, thank you very much for bringing attention to this very bad road. But
before you come in, Abdulaziz Mohammed is a member of parliament from Mion constituency. It's in the northern region. How are you? What language do you speak at Mion?
Tagbani, but it's a Tagbani in a Kunkumba constituency.
Okay.
So I'm a Dogoma by tribe. Okay. But we have a large presence of Kunkumba.
That's
that's good. I like that.
So the hospital road, my friend. I know you are not the roast minister, yes, but sometimes I have to put pressure. Because that place, a friend of mine just lives around, just behind the hospital.
Yeah,
and he complains constantly. And I told him, I don't have power. I can only talk.
Yeah, Roland, the complaint about that road is universal in nature. Everyone in churches, everywhere I go, people are. But what I would like to say is that governance is supposed to be in continuum. There are many things we inherited, good things and some not good. And this road is one of them. There was a contractor on it before the election, and the contractor packed and left because apparently he had raised certificates and was not being paid. So I've written to the Minister of Roads and Highways. I've listed 3 top roads that are actually a menace to the community. And you have a hospital, like you said, it's a referral hospital.
Yes.
And imagine you have a pregnant woman who has been referred from another polyclinic within Nungwa or Sakumono coming to this hospital. The road is bad. But I would like to also say that I believe with the complaints and concerns like you've shown, the roads ministry will do their best and make sure that at least a contractor goes on that road before the end of the year. You know, it's an artery road. It does not only serve the people of Lejokuku. In fact, 80% of those who use that road live outside the constituency. You connect that road to Bacho now. You use that road to Sprinters. You use that road to Community 18 to Sakumono. So it links commercial Accra, as in the ministries, to residential Accra, other parts like Sakumono.
Shall I get it completed? Stop the long talk. Get it completed.
Thank
because I'm worried about you.
Thank you.
You even have statistics. You have 80% and all that, but still the thing is.
Yeah, thank you. The data is important to get the work done.
Okay. So, but we'll also speak to the Minister of Roads for something to be done too. Maybe we have to take a camera step. Abdulaziz, how are you? It's the first time on the show for you.
First time meeting you. First time on
which geographically, where is it located?
Most part of Mion lies between Tamale South and Yendi. Tamale South, that is represented by our minority leader and Yendi. But there are some portions of it that also lie between Yendi and Gushebu and Yendi and Bimbila.
Fantastic.
I think it's one of the largest constituencies that you can get in the country. Yeah. A very interesting
constituency. What's the population of the constituency? Voter population?
About 40,000 voter population. Yeah.
And mine is 149,000 registered voters.
It makes no difference.
So actually, anything they give me, they have to give this gentleman 1/3. His salary and everything.
You have asphalt roads. Go to
constituency with asphalt roads.
The road is complaining about is a rural road.
Oh. If you don't do that road, we'll be in trouble. We the residents, will be in trouble with you.
Yes.
But Kweku Kwatin, you know Kweku Kwatin is the deputy finance minister. He says government is faced by minorities' threat over 3% VAT. And we know that the minority, they even have been talking about this for a number of that 3% VAT flat rate, for which even we're being told the finance minister is supposed to appear before parliament, etc. Says government is not worried about the minorities' plan to head to court over the implementation of the flat rate. According to him, it is surprising that the minority who had agreed to amendment in parliament will backtrack and claim it is unlawful. Dr. EOCO, you had wanted him to respond.
Yes, they have a very strong
No, case. But you are in government.
Your man is making a claim.
But the minority always. This
No.
Roland, no problem. Let me say a very good morning to all your viewers and to my brothers and sisters watching from EOCO, and also wish the president and our team, executive team, well. We pray that they get wisdom, strength, so that we'll push the agenda forward. Roland, you know, I don't know. It's sometimes you embark on an action, and that action exposes a deficit you have or a weakness. And this is one classical example. My brothers were in the house. My brothers, the opposition, members of the minority, they were in the house when these bills were brought before us for amendment. They were in the house. And all of us voted. At least sometimes you vote with a protest. But this is one of the bills where there was no protest. We all discussed, normally they discuss the details at the finance committee level. And it comes to the plenary. All of us agreed and voted to support these policies. They were captured in the budget first, and subsequently were brought to the House for the amendments. And they all gave it the blessing that it deserved. And the implementation was supposed to start 1st of July. And it's because the date was now due for it to be implemented. That's why attention, you know, when you pass, you amend a bill and it's about to take effect, the operational details now become manifest. And then people can go like, it dawns on people that this is about now to happen. And sometimes it is at that stage that some of the stakeholders who are not appreciative of the details will start to show some anxiety and complain. But luckily for us, most of the stakeholders are in fact excited because they are having 17.5% come down to a flat rate of 3%.
Which stakeholders?
Oh, yesterday in Parliament, Electrical Dealers Association, Ghana Traders Union Association, spare parts, they all came to the Finance Committee to plead.
They're not the consummate population.
Oh, I know, but
that directly will be affected.
I know, but
because we're told mainly the wholesalers and manufacturers.
Good. You were told that came from the minority.
No.
All right, no problem. But
I'm telling you that as Joy News,
okay,
we went to speak to these bodies and they expressed these concerns. It's not a minority.
All right.
Before even the minority came to resolve.
I appreciate that. But I've also cited specific identifiable groups who also are major stakeholders in the industry, who actually came to plead with the Finance Committee not to reverse the policy, because this is going to actually help them. You know what? I think listening to some of the ranking members in the minority, someone like the former Deputy Minister of Finance, Atu Hayford, right? What I gathered from him was that there are some sections of businessmen, like traders, who normally don't fall strictly in the retail category and are not also in the wholesale category. But with the introduction of this tax, they actually might end up being caught up in the net. So for them who were not previously really defined under retail category, it's sort of a new tax for them. And so that is the cry. And they've actually headed to court. We are building a democracy which want to be established on law. If you are part of a team that approved a particular bill, and subsequently, upon further review, you are convinced that it is not proper and that it's not in tandem with the laws governing value-added tax, and you're heading to court, it will be an opportunity for all of us to learn. The government is convinced that this tax will bring relief to most traders and business folks. The government is also convinced that the computation of the 3% flat rate is that simple that it will help us to rope in a lot of people. My brothers believe that it is illegal. No problem. When they go to court, we are convinced that the court would actually support our position. And usually I'm not even only interested in the verdict of the court, but how do you call it? How they arrived at a verdict. So that through that we even learn more and our conviction will even be stronger. That's what I have to say.
Abdulaziz, you're still insisting?
Yes, we are still insisting.
That they have to come back to the House and...
Exactly. You see, the meeting that the Finance Committee had with the AGI and the Association of Exporters and Importers was as a result of a petition to the Speaker of Parliament, and the Speaker rightly referred the matter to the committee. And so the chairman of the committee and the ranking members, and for that matter the leadership, convened the meeting to give some hearing to those who brought the petition, the AGI, Exporters and Importers Association of Ghana, and some other business interest groups. And they made their point very, very clear. The minority thinks that the policy has some challenges, one being a legal one, and then the other one being a moral one. The position of the minority is that what the GRA is doing now, what the finance ministry through the GRA is doing now, does not sit well with the current law Act 871. And these same issues were raised by our ranking member on the finance committee when they brought the amendment bill to Parliament. He raised that issue clearly. So it is not a new position that we are raising today. And the other issue has to do with the moral aspect of it. You know, the NPP in opposition, I have their manifesto here signed by...
You have their manifesto?
Yes, I have signed by His Excellency President Nado, then candidate.
How did you get a copy?
Or why? You said you were moving from...
Okay.
You were moving from...
Your liars.
You were moving from taxation to production. Now, what we are doing indirectly is betraying that same solemn pledge.
How come?
Yes.
Why would you make that conclusion?
Exactly. You see, the 3% is normally meant for the retailers, yes, people who are very low turnover businesses. Now, seeking to extend it to include wholesalers, and in some instances, manufacturers would mean double taxation, because these are people already captured by the 17.5 VAT rate. And so you are indirectly engaging in what we call double taxation, which is not allowed anywhere in the world.
Well, but the finance minister and his deputies, they've responded appropriately. That if the computation is done adequately and it's done well, then that rather wouldn't be the case.
So you see, my difficulty with Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta is that he has a very rich private sector background. He doesn't still seem to understand the workings of the public service. And so I can see that thing reflecting in the way he conducts his official business. It was the same man who came to the floor of Parliament to withdraw a tax he called Kaya tax, when in any case we don't have any tax in our law books called Kaya tax. At best, it is a levy. And it took us a whole lot of time to let him understand that there was no tax called Kaya tax, and that Parliament does not deal with levies. Levies are dealt at the assembly level. And so I can pardon the Minister for Finance. I'm sure he will need some time to understand the rudiments of public service and to understand the legal architecture of our public finance. He has a very rich private sector background. You can't take that one away from him. My worry has to do with his deputy, Kweku Kwatin, who has been around the political circles for a very long time. One time spokesperson to the finance minister under President Kufuor. So he should have a better understanding of this matter. But you see, the courts exist to bring finality to some of these issues. We as a minority have indicated our position to seek some legal interpretation of this matter. It is a matter for leadership to take. They have signaled an intention to lead the minority to court for us to ensure that the proper thing is done. And I hear Mr. Kwatin says that they are unfazed. Yes, we are also unfazed. We would ensure that government would act in tandem with the law. We would not allow them to... you see, when they came around to withdraw some taxes after the budget presentation, we warned them clearly that you are already complaining of fiscal space, and yet you are coming simply because you wanted to make some political capital to withdraw and reduce some taxes. And those taxes didn't have any bearing on the lives of the people, and yet government lost as much as 1 billion Ghana cedis. We warned them. They are now trying to recover more fiscal space to be able to survive. A very good counsel that was given to them during the budget debate, but for some partisan reasons, they rubbished us today. They are scrambling for fiscal space, disrespecting the laws of this country, and I think that's not fair.
But let's watch the finance minister and his reaction to a number of the things that have been said, particularly concerning the 3% flat rate that has been introduced as far as taxables are concerned.
The huge issue was the supposed cascading effect of the 3%. And truly, in our view, the 17.5% also had a cascading effect. And so this is a much lower level, which also is which also is this deductible from their income tax proceeds. So we feel that we are in good stead. I think there are some issues of importers that we are trying to resolve. So we'll have some more meetings on Monday, and I think it's an issue of explanation more so than the possibility of escalating costs.
So the issue of the importers, the minority, for example, says it's outside the law. The law did not capture them as people who should benefit from the 3% tax rate. Right. But you've acted outside the law and allowed for that.
No, I don't. Well, that's a view, and we don't think that there's any illegality. But since an honourable member of parliament, Rankin, has said it, we will look at it again. But we are very sure that we are within the law in the actions that we have taken.
Part of the concern that AGI, for example, is raising, that this could result in increment in prices because
That's true. We had a good meeting of them this morning before even meeting here, and I think there's certainly a wavering that may not be the situation.
If it's true, well, then it's problematic, right? Because this is supposed to rather benefit.
If it is true, but it's a huge if that you are saying. But we don't think it is true, because we think when you talk about cascading on 17.5, 3% is much less than that. But more importantly, now the 3% also becomes part of your cost, which means that in computing your taxes, it becomes something that you can deduct from it.
And it's interesting, and the finance minister is saying that this will not be withdrawn in any way, Okoboy.
Yeah.
Rather, people need to understand the computations to make sure it works, because ultimately the intent of this introduction is to benefit the end user and the consumer, and not rather burden.
Thank you, my brother. Let me just state quickly that when we are discussing the issues, we should resist the temptation to go into individuals and personal. My brother said, because of the finance minister has a private background, maybe because this is first public life, you understand, that is immaterial.
You think it's unfounded?
No, that is immaterial. When you go to the ministry, even with his deputies, like you stated, Kwaku Kwarteng has had experience with it. You don't need one man to have experience in all. It's the team. And please, private practice and expertise and experience can be brought to bear in public service. So let's get that clear. Consistency. This government, we've been faithful to our promises. In fact, I remember the day in Parliament when the finance minister was reading the budget and said 17.5% of financial transactions abolished, 17.5% on air tickets abolished. Most of my colleagues looked dazed. They were like, wow, this thing is really real within a short time. So we are making sure that the promise we gave, that micro and small businesses will have a 3% flat rate and not a 17.5%, which is actually a serious impediment on most businesses. It affects the cash flow, it affects their sustainability. Already most businesses were suffering. So because we are Democrats and we believe in the rule of law, if our brothers insist that there's a problem with this particular policy, we are like, there are two things involved. You were part of the blessing, the approval. But it's not also absolutely wrong to have doubts. You are going to the courts. We bless the action. Let's see what the courts will say. But we are convinced that this is a solid, And what he said about fiscal space, that it's a backdoor approach to increase revenue. Roland, let's remember that in looking at your balance sheet, when you reduce over expenditure, overpricing, and corruption, you increase your fiscal space. That also absorbs a lot of what you have raised. So we are going to rely on prudent management, both fiscally and also in our expenditures, to ensure that we have value for money. And I will not list a host of them, but most Ghanaians, is because of the loss of value for money principles and behavior of the SWA government. That's why they voted for us. Where you have 200,000 being enough to take care of 100 or so buses, and it goes to 3.65 million. When you look at the disparity, that normally is so vast and significant. That's what we are avoiding the Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo government, to ensure that prudence when it comes to management of the economy is key. By so doing, we can increase fiscal space and invest in our capital infrastructure.
Well, great. But at the end of the day, it means that once there's a clear understanding, it doesn't mean the minority would have to go to the extent to which it wants to go to. I think it's not just a matter of just clarity as far as the various entities in the commerce sector are concerned.
Roland, let me assure my brother and colleague here that I'll be the last person to get personal in my public discourse. I didn't say anything touching on the person of Minister Ken Ofori-Atta. No. In fact, I have stated on this platform that he has a very rich private sector background. Of course, it is also true that he has virtually no public service experience, and that is reflecting in the way he conducts his official business. I even referred to a tax that he called Kaye tax. You are a lawmaker just like myself. You know very well that there's no tax called Kaye tax. So I was just trying to paint the issues as they are and not to malign the person of Minister Ken Ofori-Atta. Now, talking about the NPP redeeming their electoral pledges, EOCO, we are all in this country. If you are doing that, you know. If you are not doing that, you know. Why? You are talking of prudence. When you can, in a broad daylight, like we have, you have a boss MD do what he did and see the report that the Minister for Energy has issued. I mean, EOCO, you are building a record for yourself. I mean, trust me, by the end of this year, the NPP would have succeeded in building a record for of their own, and not more talk about incompetent and corruption. We are talking of corruption. We have pointed to the insider tradings in the 2.25 billion bond that you issued, a government that promised that they would not borrow. You are borrowing at a very high speed and a very suspicious circumstances. In fact, the last time we borrowed the $1 billion was at the rate of some 10.75. You are aware. You are a friend to the Finance Committee. The same thing, you have gone to borrow 2.25 billion at the interest rate of 19.75. And you think that's a prudent way to manage the economy? That you can sell contaminated fuel to a company that does not exist at one city?
Please, we've had the minister come out to make some clarity on some of these.
What the Minister for Energy did was to engage in the NDC NPP football game, so that in the midst of all that, we will lose as much as.
But you are in the match. You are also playing the match. That match.
14.25 million. And now you are telling me you are managing the economy prudently, talking about corruption.
Yeah.
You have lost that moral standing just in 6 months of you being in power. And trust me, you will build more records in terms of corruption for yourself in the next few months to come. Very soon, your Minister for Finance will be coming to the floor with a supplementary budget. You and I are aware that nothing has changed, even with the main budget. What has changed? Have you cleared health insurance debts? Have you honored your commitments to assemblies? You are dealing with a capping regime that is threatening all the social services in this country, and yet you think that is a good way to manage an economy. We will see. The sweetness of the pudding is in the eating. We will see in the next few months to come.
The Economic Organized Crime Office has written to the Electoral Commission demanding that 2 officers of the commission be made to proceed on leave. And it says it is investigating the loss of about 480,000 Ghana cedis from an endowment fund apparently at the Electoral Commission. And it says the Deputy Minister and also the Chief Accountant are the key suspects and assisting with investigations. Of course, we've had the Director of Finance at the Commission said that he will not proceed on leave as directed by the Chairperson of the EC following the loss of that money. But let's speak on this subject.
Just a second. You know, I was quiet. He made a lot of, he veered into bust and bonds a lot. So it's only fair as government to say something. You know,
because you're in power.
Let me say categorically, and it was in the chamber. The health insurance, we started making the payments. In fact, most of the deficits, the gaps that they left, we've paid. He was in the chamber. The minister mentioned that we've cleared 3 months.
You mean the Deputy Minister?
No, I'm talking about the health minister. I think some few days ago.
Okay, I heard the Deputy Minister, sir.
Bust was one of the issues, but because if you're there, let me say emphatically that there were 2 main things that made people become very anxious in the public. The phrase contaminated fuel. If you use vehicles, you're a road, you have a vehicle, you're an owner, and you hear that contaminated fuel has been released into the system, you have a reason to be anxious. But it was It came out later. The term is a technical term they use for fuel, which is no more fit for vehicle, but fit for other purposes. And the sale that took place, when I say it's not the first time, it's not to say that despite all the laws, it's legitimate. Our issue is that it is surprising when in an industry you have a practice which was actually initiated by my brothers. Listen, I'm not talking about legality or not, but there is a practice, in an industry practice. If a third party comes to say that this practice that both of you are engaged in is illegal and worrying, I'll go like, wait a minute, let's take a look at the criticism and see the merits. But you started an industry practice which was ongoing. Somebody inherits it, continues with it, but even is very fair and transparent, and then you go like, it's a crime. And let me say something. When you're in opposition, it's not every criticism you bring that must, how do you call it, point to an end you want. The points they raised, that the gentleman, his own company was the one that bought it, their line, telephone line goes to him and all that, proved to be as lame as the horse, the NDC horse. So let's just be calm and make sure that the right things are established. You were asking about the EC, about the EOCO and all that. Let me see whether his enthusiasm will be the same as when he was talking about the bond issue. Go ahead, I'm listening.
You see, I will not
Oh,
we're speaking on the EC.
Exactly, I won't veer into this bust
you went already.
Scandal. But you know, now on the issue of the Electoral Commission and EOCO, when the news broke out yesterday, I have been trying to go through the Constitution to find out if EOCO is clothed with authority to do what they are doing. And I'm not convinced that what EOCO is doing is proper. I'm not convinced it is legal. And my worry is the buy-in of the chairperson of the Electoral Commission. Having received an instruction from EOCO, she has gone ahead to ask 3 of her staff, one being a deputy a commissioner, to proceed on leave pending investigations. And what actually came to me as a shock was that EOCO was not formed only yesterday. EOCO have been with us. We've had this brouhaha on the contaminated fuel at Bost. They were quiet. An amount of some 14.25 million Ghana cedis lost. EOCO was quiet. Suddenly, they are asking people to proceed on leave for a loss of some 480,000. My brother was just talking of inconsistency, a very clear inconsistency from a state institution like EOCO. Now, the Electoral Commission, if you would permit me, is an independent institution. If you refer to, I think somewhere, Article 44(3), it is clear that no institution can direct the Electoral Commission on how it carries its work. 46, I'm sorry. And if you would allow me, I'd want to refer our viewers to Article 46 of the Constitution. Except as provided in this Constitution or any other law not inconsistent with this Constitution, in the performance of its function, the Electoral Commission shall not be subject to the direction or control of any person or authority. Now, the Electoral Commission is a very sensitive institution. And so if we allow state institutions like EOCO to begin to work towards directing and controlling Electoral Commission, we would be in trouble. What would have been the case if the Electoral Commission had, for instance, asked that the EC boss herself be suspended? What would have been the state of this country? And now, a deputy commissioner has been asked to go on suspension. And even if you go
the deputy commissioner was asked to go on suspension based on the notice given to the commissioner by EOCO. And so the chairperson of the Electoral Commission, as the administrative head of the commission, said that you have been cited in this, and so you should go on leave. So that proceed on leave notice was given by the commission. By the commission on the instructions, the chairperson of the commission. On the instructions of EOCO. Well,
on the instructions of
I'm
EOCO.
not sure whether it's a tacit instruction or a direct instruction.
Oh.
It's an inference, because you have been cited in this report
Exactly.
that I have been notified of as the head of the commission, or that the commission has been notified. And as a head, I invariably say that you should, because you have been. Yes.
You see, I haven't seen the letter from EOCO to
The Electoral Commission.
To Electoral Commission.
Okay.
But from the
I think we all haven't.
From
so,
the
but from the
news
reports that
bulletins,
I read.
exactly. The word,
because we're told that it's the EC that is asking the deputy and the accountant and even the director of finance
on the instructions of EOCO. And I've just told you that, you see, EOCO must begin to learn its remit. Now, what is worrying is that endowment fund, it is not a state fund. It's like the provident fund. It's like the provident fund. They call it a tree within the pension architecture. It's not a state fund. These are contributions of workers and not state.
So you're saying this should have been an internal matter.
Exactly. And so I wonder how suddenly EOCO would have interest and some.
It's like a provident fund of any, let's say, a company.
Exactly. And so it is an internal arrangement. The Electoral Commission themselves could have dealt with this matter.
Yes.
With that,
but the Electoral Commission is just not any other entity. It's a public entity.
Exactly.
And EOCO is a public investigative body.
I get you right. But this has got nothing to do with funds for operations of EC. These are deductions from the workers' monthly income.
We do understand how endowment funds operate.
Exactly. And so you're asking yourself suddenly, how and when would EOCO begin?
So your point is what? There seems to be some.
I think
some indirect interference.
Exactly. In the work. I think that EOCO has no mandate over an endowment fund of an institution like Electoral Commission. I also think that they are working on a very dangerous path of trying to influence the operations of the Electoral Commission. And I've just asked a question. If this was a directive to the chairperson of the Electoral Commission herself, what would have been the case? In any case, the commissioners, there are processes of appointments and removal from office and suspension is clearly stated somewhere in Article 146(10). It's clearly stated 146(10). And so I think that someone should be challenging the actions of EOCO. Unfortunately, my worry is that institutions like EOCO, BNI, and other security-related institutions have become so loyal to governments of the day. I think that their responsibility and loyalty should be to the state and not a government. I have a worry with approach to work, and I think that someone should try and test the law to see if EOCO has the mandate to do what they are doing,
to be making the incursions that
if they are not violating Article 46 and 146 of the 1992 Constitution. I mean, I'm extremely worried, and that brings us to the discussions on the Office of the Independent Prosecutor. You see, if we don't take time, the Office of the Independent Prosecutor is just going to be another EOCO institution that will be very loyal.
Don't speculate.
No, I'm just telling you.
It has not even
No, we are preempting what you are likely to do, and we should stop creating parallel institutions when we know we are not prepared to give them enough space to operate independently. You know, when you go and do an independent prosecutor's office, and yet he or she will depend on the instructions of Attorney General to initiate actions, that would be bad. Currently, as we speak, EOCO is strictly under the Attorney General's department. And that is where the political patronage comes from. And I'm worried. I think that we should be more interested not just in persecuting our opponents. We must be interested in fighting official graft and corruption. And we must all demonstrate a commitment and go beyond the political rhetoric. And that's my position. I think that somebody should go and test this
point made. You're an MP, you can still take that action.
Roland.
But at the end of the day, we know that EOCO is not safe if it's undertaking certain mandates or action that doesn't inure to the benefits of the ordinary Ghanaian, the institution of the Electoral Commission, and the state? I mean, that is my understanding of it.
My brother is saying that it appears EOCO, BNI, they appear to be loyal to the government in power. Political. And this loyalty has actually been experienced by some people for 8 years, if that is the case. And they forgot to make comments about it and trying to change the situation until 6 months in.
Listen, you came to power.
I'm not landed. Yes.
Change. You promised.
So the change will happen.
You promised.
I was coming to it. So calm down.
I'm just trying to justify your wrongs today.
No, I'm just trying to say that as a doctor, normally when somebody experiences something for 8 years, I expect the person to still be in that mood for some time before complaining. But it's come out early, within 6 months. On a more serious note, the EC is an important institution. In fact, there are three institutions that are so important to me in the establishment of law and order or the security of the state: the judiciary, the electoral commission, and the police. You cannot replace them. Now, I like what he said, that there should not be interference in the performance of their duties. Does that mean that if money is allocated to the EC after auditing have been shown that there's been gross abuse or scandals, that cannot be investigated? We should separate the two. What I'm saying is that there's a spirit behind that letter. In they performing their function of running elections and managing the process, don't come in and intervene.
But their core function.
Exactly. But they receive funds from the state. They are not a private organization.
So how those funds are used?
Yes, exactly.
Should be a concern of the state.
Of course. So we should get that. And secondly, I like what he said. There is an endowment fund. It's true. When you look at the background, this fund was inaugurated 3 schemes: the funeral, the endowment, and I think the welfare schemes, all part of the endowment fund. And they inaugurated it in June 2009. They started collecting the monies in November 2008. You are taking 5% of the salary of workers who are public officials in the public institution. Fine, it could be a welfare scheme which is sort of pseudo-private. In 2015, they increased to 10% of their salaries. I don't want to do politics, but at a point, even the police could come to MPP and say that there were some anomalies with the payment structures there. Some executives in the party had complained. And people found that there was enough grounds for the police to try and see what was really happening. My brother,
because the police were petitioning. You know that.
You have to. Exactly. So I don't. Yes. For EOCO, it's good. I appreciate that. For EOCO, I'm not. How do you call it? Finished with the facts whether somebody petitioning or all that. But if there's been some anomalies or abuse in the management of the fund, and they are trying to go into it, if it does not benefit even the whole country, at least the workers there, if there's some work done on it to make sure that things are corrected, it will inure to what? Their benefit. Is that not it? So we should not be tempted quickly to think that it is a machine to try to hound some people or victimize some people.
Do you think it is because this is not really targeted at the administration of the Electoral Commission? It's an administrative anomaly, if I understand.
No. You see, in management of the fund, there are 13 board members who manage the fund. So, and when you read, even the finance director said he was not in position.
He was not at post
when these things happen. All we need is for due process to happen, for the facts to be established. He was trying to resist the call to go on leave. What I know is that if you're asked to go on leave, you still get all your emoluments and all that. If the findings are disjointed or there's prejudice in the findings against you, the courts are always there. The courts are there. And what happens is that even when you go to the courts, you even sometimes get damages paid to you, assuming you've been slighted or you've been unduly treated. So let's not be quick to talk about EOCO now. It's going to prosecute the special prosecutor. That Roland, I agree with him. There are some fundamental things we have to look at as a country. As long as the IGP, this is a constitutional arrangement, is appointed by the sitting president. As long as certain top positions in most of the security services are within the prerogative of the president when he or she comes, there will be this cloud sometimes about some of our leaders of the institutions when they make decisions, because somebody can be tempted to think that because he brought or she brought him, he's being tempted to work towards them. So let's look at these broader challenges, and when they are being settled, we will all normally have these lingering doubts being cleared from us.
Very well. That makes fair point. If we have to look at it, Abdul.
You see, my colleague here has agreed with me that this is not state funds. And let me read to you the EOCO Act, the Act establishing EOCO, the functions of EOCO.
Are you registered with the legal council?
Why?
I'm a pocket lawyer.
I'm a pocket lawyer. I'll mind you. The functions of the office are to A, and this is where my interest is, investigate and, on the authority of the Attorney General, prosecute serious offences that involve 1. Financial or economic loss to the Republic or any state or any state entity or institutions in which the state has financial interest, money laundering, human trafficking, cyber crime, tax fraud, and extra.
Go over again.
A.
That's the functions.
The functions. And that leads to this matter that we are discussing.
Yes,
1. Financial or economic loss to the Republic or any state entity or institution in which the state has a financial interest. Money laundering, human trafficking, cyber crime, tax fraud, and other serious offenses. So I'm telling you,
in which the state has interest.
Why? What is the state's interest in
but they are all public workers.
No,
all of them.
No,
so if there's abuse of a fund,
There's several interest in electoral commission,
yes,
or because of independence. It's independent.
The independence of the electoral commission is one thing, which I have referred to under Article 46, and also talked about how they are suspended and removed in respect of, they have same conditions as some high court judges.
Very well.
And so what I'm saying is that an internal mechanism within the electoral commission would have been enough to deal with this matter, and not EOCO. And I'm saying that if you read the mandate of EOCO, it has to do directly with state resources. The endowment fund is not a state
there was a caveat in any other matter in which the state has an interest. There was a caveat. You saw the caveat.
You see, you can justify.
Okay.
But you see, the interesting thing, my friends, I just want to point out something to my colleague here. He's justifying the suspension of the people.
Oh, I don't know that. What I said that if
now
we look at the process,
MD Bost to step aside. What was
look? Even DKM, where DKM.
Abdul, now, let me ask this.
Yes, sir.
If at any point in time there could be one animosity, level of instability among the worker groups of the Electoral Commission, so to speak, in such a way that they cannot undertake their mandate as stipulated by the regulation that establishes the Electoral Commission. And because the state, as a state, which includes the state machinery and the people of Ghana, have an interest in the way the Electoral Commission operates daily, is it not in the interest, per the regulations that establish the EOCO, to have an interest in it?
One, I am not in any way justifying some financial malfeasance. No, I am not justifying the alleged acts of pilfering some resources at Electoral Commission. No, I am saying that the institution itself, the internal mechanism of Electoral Commission, would have been enough to deal with this matter. And I'm insisting that it is an endowment fund, different from what resources that government allocates to Electoral Commission for it to carry out its mandate.
Very well.
And so an internal mechanism could have been able to handle.
You think would have sufficed?
Exactly. Okay. And I'm also saying that for purposes of consistency, just last week, when we're calling on the boss MD to step aside,
to
allow for
the two scenarios.
To allow
today you came with boss in all your four pockets.
To allow for free and fair, transparent investigations. It was like, no, there's no way the man's presence would impede investigations. Now, within a week, we think that the presence of these three people can impede investigations at the electoral.
But we've had interdictions also made at Bost. So in this matter.
Yeah. When the news broke out?
Well, not necessarily.
Exactly.
Because the news breaking out is just an after event. Because this issue of contamination of fuel had drawn the attention of management to take certain actions before this news broke out. And so we have to make
let me just
even beyond whether or not an internal mechanism of the Electoral Commission could resolve this matter, and whether or not Electoral Commission is not veering off its mandate per what I've just read to you. I have also referred you and our viewers to a constitutional provision, go to 146. The procedures for removal from office and even suspension of senior officers of the Electoral Commission. For instance, the chairperson and the deputy commissioners are clearly stated in 146.
Nobody has been removed from office.
Yes.
No, suspension.
Yeah.
Suspension.
But that's not
suspension. No, suspension.
Look,
suspension. I'm not a lawyer, but why?
But what you're doing is law. So
thankfully, the Constitution
is for all of us.
In Swahili, or Arabic.
Very well. If you go to your language first, let's go.
I don't mind you.
It's not an Arab.
A justice of the superior. You see, they are saying that the terms and conditions of
commissioners
to the high court judges. A justice of a superior court of judicature or a chairman of the regional tribunal may only be removed in accordance with the procedure specified in this article. And when you come to all these things, we talk about the procedure involved, but my interest is 10, where a petition has been referred to a committee. Under this article, the president may, in the case of a chief justice, not necessarily here, B, in the case of any other justice or a superior court or a chairman of a regional tribunal acting in accordance with the advice of the Judicial Council, suspend that justice or chairman of the regional tribunal. So there's even a provision in the Constitution that talks about the suspension of a justice of a high court. And their terms of work is equivalent to that of the chairperson and deputy commissioners of the Electoral Commission. And so I think that somebody should be interested in challenging the action. I'm not a lawyer, but
good point.
You know, in this country, when workers retire, government workers retire, and their state is pitiful or sorrowful, most people call on the government.
You're not saying that should be a justification.
That
if he's raising concerns about EOCO, because I also know where I'm coming from with my set of argument too. But you also have a valid point based on that. But that could only be established in a court of law.
Correct. But we want to at least give some reason to some of the actions. I appreciate that a case, he sees a stronger case being made if they were investigating issues with public funds which were given to them maybe in the running of the institution. But with this being money collected within, it was like a pseudo-private, like a welfare. But what I'm saying is that ultimately,
it is welfare.
Ultimately, if these funds were meant to secure their retirement and all that, to make life better for them. Ultimately,
and even secure their mental states as they even work.
As workers, good.
At present.
At present, good.
Because if I know that my future is secured, I will work perfectly.
Yes, your condition is good. So that if ultimately, should they not be performing at work because they have issues
that
with
should
their
be of interest to EOCO.
No interest. You see, he said the EOCO sort of works with instructions ordered from the AG. The AG knows, as a rep of government, like a government appointee, that ultimately is the responsibility of government. Wait.
Allow state institutions to defend their own actions.
Please, let me make my comment.
I'm telling you.
Is the you know what? Let me land with this so that people will appreciate. NDK. This financial micro scheme scandal that went on in the Bronga.
The one you promised to pay.
It's not the one you promised to pay. DKM.
Sorry.
DKM. The one you promised to pay.
Oh, let me.
I'm just asking. The one you promised
to pay. It's not in DKM.
DKM, thank
and
you.
I failed.
DKM. It's not a public institution. People on their own accord, based on judgment, went into the transactions with them. But when there was this massive chaos in terms of
the state had to come in.
So as a state, there are.
But the state is coming in because we have a state regulator, the Bank of Ghana. So we have to situate the argument in context.
You know the scheme, the welfare scheme that the Electoral Commission, they were not registered, I'm sure, as private entity. It is for workers of the Electoral Commission who are public officers.
You're saying it's got some foundation in some legality.
Of course.
Point made.
You see, my worry is that you see, when people in government turn themselves into spokespersons for state institutions, I have a worry. Don't defend whatever happens under your regime. I'm sure they have a spokesperson at EOCO.
I love this man. Abdulaziz Mohammed. He's a member of parliament for Myong constituency.
All right. Allow them to speak for themselves.
Right. And so I'll show you the front page of the Daily Guide right now, and my director will do so. You'll see how it's been captured, the subject of the Electoral Commission issue. the probing into embezzlement or perceived mismanagement of the endowment fund. It's right here on your screens now. It says EC boss fired. You see how we can be mischievous as media.
Which paper?
The Daily Guide.
Oh, you can be sure that's what they will do.
So when I saw the thing, I thought the Electoral Commission boss, and then I saw apparently the deputy.
It is the wish. It is the wish of the paper and the allies to get the EC boss fired.
Let's move on to a subject that has also been on the front pages about the president Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, formerly turning the valves for they call it the Kufuor ship, but we know the FPS of Kufuor to start operations. It's been operating, and apparently this one is just a formal commissioning or perhaps a formal turning of the valves. But it's good news, and I know the minority. You convened a press conference. You said where there needs to be credit, it has to go creditably.
Yeah, because works on this project started fully under us.
But nobody's disputing the president did that yesterday.
So we are only worried that when they inherit some of these things, they should be humble enough to admit that yes, the incompetent regime initiated this project. But going beyond the politicking, I'm happy that it was named after our former president, President Kufuor, because he has also played an enormous role to the development of this country. Oil found in commercial quantities somewhere in 2007, even though the record shows that there were previous discovery of oil in commercial quantities sometime back in the history of Ghana. But for myself and my generation, it was only in 2007 that we discovered oil in commercial quantities. And so for that to be named after President Kufuor, I think he deserves that. President Mahama, in my candid opinion, should have been invited to the program.
He may have been invited.
Yeah, I'm not too sure about it. And no credit of any sort was given to the regime that they refer to as an incompetent.
Oh, the president actually gave credit to, I think, the previous two heads of states and also
President Mills and President Mahama.
Yeah, I think so, yes.
Okay, maybe he is beginning to discover the good things in President Mahama and the NDC, something he had not found throughout his days in opposition.
But you have to refer to the president. He did that, so
thank you.
That should be
My
enough.
brother was just praying for wisdom for people in government. 6 months after being in power, they are resorting to prayer for wisdom for people in government. Wisdom, well, but the most interesting thing is not just about the FPSO Ajekum Kufuor, but the use of our oil revenue. You know, we should not rely heavily on oil at the expense of very strategic sectors of our economy like agri and the creative industry, manufacturing and other related sectors of our national economy. Because that one is exhaustible. I'm sure in the next 20, 30 years, the oil may have gone, but we must be interested in anchoring our economy on our strength, and that is agriculture. And so my plea to the current regime is that they should continue the good things that we started. The petroleum management, there's an act.
Yes, the Petroleum Management
Act.
Which stipulates how...
Exactly. They should go religiously by that. There were attempts earlier to use the Heritage Fund to fund Free Senior High School that were able to shut them out of it. And so I just hope and pray that they will go religiously by that act so that the ordinary Ghanaian living in Tambabu or Joblaju in the Myeong constituency who has no opportunity to manage our oil revenue can have some benefit from the oil resources of our country. And the stabilization fund, the heritage fund, generations yet unborn should have a feel of what we are having today. We should not consume everything today and use everything to collect as collaterals for loan just for the current generation. I think we have a bigger tax ahead of us as a country.
Roland, you see, the transitions we've experienced in the Fourth Republic is very, very beautiful. And it's not only the transitions that have been beautiful, but you have occasions like this where work that started in the particular government has been continued and gone through the years. Some 17 years ago, 2009, this country were gracious enough to vote in President Kufuor. And he says something, that the GMPC...
2009. We didn't vote for President Kufuor in 2001.
Sorry.
2001.
Yes, when President Kufuor came. And at that time, the GMPC had become like an octopus that had its limbs and wings going everywhere, engaging a lot of businesses that did not have core business with oil discovery. President Kufuor said something. I'm going to do two things. I'm going to realign their functions and refocus the organization, and to invest in them to make sure that oil is discovered in commercial quantities. And inshallah, before we left, oil was discovered. We took it to Parliament, and now, by the grace of God, we've had all these transitions. Let me say something. This is a very interesting code. The interest payments on the debt stock in 2015 amounted to 6 times Ghana's oil revenue for the year. Yeah, Roland, I can see you signaling me to round up. All I'm trying to say is that what he said, I agree with him. We have to manage our oil process well. Otherwise, the benefits or the consequences, the effects will not be felt by any Ghanaian. And in fact, it will come to a point.
Dr. Okoboy.
We will even wonder whether oil.
Thank you
is
this morning. Lejo Kuku, Member of Parliament. Thanks for joining me.
Well, you made me crash land.
I know you wanted to wrap up.
Your government itself is crashing. So.
Abdul Aziz Mohammed is a member of Parliament from Myong. I've enjoyed the two of them this morning. Great.